Hello everyone, my name is Seneca Johnston and I'm a steering committee member of YUCCA, and I'll be your MC for today. So YUCCA, or Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, is an intergenerational movement led by young people and informed by our elders. We work to create sustainable social, economic, and environmental justice that uplifts every member of our community. So welcome to our celebration of Earth Day 2020. Here to kick things off is Alyssa Shahey, a fellow member of YUCCA. So take it away, Alyssa.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the celebration of Earth Day 2020. We're excited to spend this time with you today. Before we begin, we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land we're organizing on is stolen land. We would like to take a moment to honor our Indigenous caretakers of this land that we live in, because we are living on stolen land. We give thanks to the Taylor relatives of those lands we are on. We commit to standing in solidarity with our Indigenous hostess, and we give gratitude for the lessons they teach us in kinship, resilience, care for the earth, and care for our communities. We must also recognize this theft that is going on, exemplified by the Trump administration recent assault on land rights of the, excuse my pronunciation of this tribal name, it's kind of a tongue twister, Mashpee Wampanoag. Our support and solidarity are with the people struggling against the violence of colonization. Today we will be sharing some incredible visuals and stories from all over the states with you, as well as inspiring poems and songs about the climate crisis we're all facing. After 350 New Mexicans will be moderating and discussing with political and community leaders where our New Mexico is in fighting to preserve our future. Yeah.
Right now, we are in crisis. Our peoples are in danger, our resources are stretched, and our most marginalized communities are in free fall. This is a tragic reality many of us who have struggled for environmental justice somewhat anticipated, but we thought it would come first from ecological collapse rather than a global pandemic. We didn't know it would happen this soon. But our principles are still clear. YUCCA was created to protect and care for our people. As young people, we are both scared for our future and determined to save it. We need to all stand in solidarity with our most vulnerable communities, right now and always. It is for those reasons that we have fought against extractive industries and environmental racism, and it is for those same reasons that we are working to fight the injustices made clear by COVID-19. In the last month, YUCCA has joined forces with Red Nation, the Democratic Socialists of America's local chapter, and Fathers New Mexico, along with many other community members, to build the Santa Fe Mutual Aid Network, a network of volunteers, friends, families, and neighbors working to support each other and meet everyone's basic survival needs at this critical time. Right now, we are 435 people strong. We've completed 65 weekly grocery runs and have provided financial assistance to 61 households. That's a combined $12,500 distributed from neighbor to neighbor in our community. Personally, I've been lucky to work with What the Truck Catering and Daniel Carvello to coordinate nightly food deliveries to St. Vincent's ER. This is our work right now, standing shoulder to shoulder with our community to address the most pressing needs and redistribute resources in Santa Fe. We are proud to be part of the Mutualista that is taking place throughout New Mexico. Across the state and across this nation, leaders, activists, and all kinds of people have come together to keep each other safe and healthy. We have been given today the honor of hosting many of those leaders. We'll tell you more about the vital efforts they are organizing in their own communities. But for now, I have the additional honor of introducing my fellow YUCCA Steering Committee member, Vero Eileen, to share a piece about the spirit of Mutualista.
Hey everybody, so this is just a small little poem that I wrote. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So this poem is called We. In a time of unbalance, we must seek the rhythm of the challenge, to inherit the strength from our ancestors, to have the will to live, even though living has always been a right deprived. But we mustn't live in the condition of those who do not see that our people have gathered and branched out like a tree, and reconnected to our truest mother to seek a truth within our hearts to give and feed. Our fingers rest against the clanking of vegetable cans, and our throats dry to phone calls as we keep fighting for our lives in a world decaying, driven to passionate youth protesting and praying. Our earth is only but one, and we've proven to ourselves our capability with what we have done. So let us stay connected to these urgent times and lead, and keep helping one another on our way to saving our home in need. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vero Eileen. That was such a powerful piece. Now, we were meant to hear from Kim Smith, who's one of the organizers with K Mutual Aid.
On the Navajo Nation in northwestern New Mexico, a pickup truck crawls up a dirt track. The passengers are bringing firewood and food to a Navajo family whose father died of the coronavirus hours earlier. Wearing masks and gloves, Kim Smith and other volunteers leave the supplies at the door for the family of 7.
We're stepping up for the community members at a time that is so crucial.
It's the first death Smith says they have been called to in this area of the nation. The father was in his 40s. The 36-year-old runs the relief operation, providing support to a growing number of families under quarantine as the pandemic takes its toll on her community.
We came across an elder who lives alone, and he has no food.
Like African Americans and Hispanics in the U.S., Navajos are dying at an alarming rate from COVID-19. The 24 fatalities on the reservation that have been recorded as of last week overtook those reported in the entire state of New Mexico. Experts point to several reasons why the virus is disproportionately affecting the tribe. Families typically living in close quarters, high rates of underlying conditions, which increase the risk of severe complications from COVID-19, plus travel. With few grocery stores and 40% unemployment, residents are forced to drive hundreds of miles to bigger cities for supplies and for work.
There's only 13 grocery stores on the reservation, and in this area, the main one is in Shiprock, and it's City Market. And there's already a couple of cases within the Northern Agency of the Navajo Nation. So if everyone is going to this one grocery store, where do you think this virus is, where is it hiding, or where can people have easy access to it?
In response to the outbreak, Navajo authorities have set curfews and have asked the federal government for field hospitals. For now, they're transporting COVID-19 patients to neighboring states for critical care.
Maybe you want to guide me?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Smith says she will continue driving her blue Dodge Ram around the nation to deliver supplies.
As young people, to be able to sacrifice ourselves, sacrifice our well-being so that more of our people don't get sick. And the reality is that our ancestors sacrificed so much more for us to continue to be here.
Asked if she feared for her own health, Smith said she went to a ceremony before starting work and believed she was protected by her ancestors and holy people.
Yate, everyone who's on the call. My name is Maggie, come from the Diné Nation, and I'm here at currently right outside of one of our distribution places, food distribution places, where we are doing COVID-19 mutual aid effort reliefs here within our territory. So we had to step away from our sanitized area to make time to connect with you all in this way. So that's who I am, and I'm Nahabani, born for Tisani, and my maternal grandparents are Tsinajinese, and paternal grandparents are Tkachinis, and yeah.
Hi, Yate, She Kim Smith, Yanashia, Twitchini, Nishli Dots, Najini Bashishchin, Ashida Shiche do Kia Ani Dashanala, Akut out in a Stana Nishla. My name is Kim Smith, and I am the co-lead with Maggie for the Northern Agency Navajo Hopi COVID Relief Team. It's good to see you all, kinda.
Yeah, so we have been doing this mutual aid relief for over 2 months now here within northern New Mexico, and we are we started off by hauling firewood for elders and disabled people, as well as single parents and people who had no vehicles too. Because when the virus hit our communities, it was still very cold, and a lot of our people out here still rely on firewood for heating and cooking as well. So, and during that time, that's how we started doing this quote unquote mutual aid. And here we are, we eventually phased out of the firewood, and now we're doing the food and deliveries, and yeah.
As Makai mentioned, we've been doing this for quite a bit, really since the beginning when this pandemic hit our communities. And I'm sure a lot of you have learned that our communities are, we took a tremendous hit with this pandemic. And as it is, we already have a lot of underlying health issues that come from the extractive industry. And so that makes us even more vulnerable to getting this virus. And so we work with New Energy Economy, and we're working on a health impact assessment. And we've been doing that for the past 2 years. And interesting enough, we are basically going full circle back to the communities that we visited to gather our data for our health impact assessment and serving them food during this pandemic. So it's just this really beautiful way of connecting and nourishing our communities, again, with food, you know, and knowledge and, you know, just compassion, because that's really what is necessary right now for us and our communities. We are in charge of the Northern Agency, and so there are 21 communities that we provide food to, as well as other resources like hygiene, menstrual products. We're hoping to start transitioning to getting food for animals. You know, hay, a lot of people have hay, and sheep and dogs and cats, and so we want to make sure that they're also taken care of as well. We have been getting tremendous amounts of support and donations from all over the country, and a lot of them are coming from Santa Fe, and you know, we're very appreciative to our allies, comrades, accomplices, compañeras in the Santa Fe area and the rest of New Mexico. The other huge amount of donations that we have been getting and that are much needed are masks. We've had a lot of seamstresses, a lot from the Santa Fe community that are sending us masks, and we're adding those to our care packages as well, with thermometers. And lately we've been incorporating a lot of ancestral herbs that help with lung function and things like that. And one of the things that also is changing a lot is we've been able to deliver to over 500 families now. Some of those families have gotten food or resources from us more than once. And we also check in with folks just to make sure that they have what they need. But as times are changing, the more of the people that we're delivering food to, their homes are now positive with the coronavirus. And so, you know, it's definitely a learning process for us. We've never done anything like this before. You know, we've been to various frontlines and things like that, but, you know, this is a whole different kind of frontline work. And, you know, we really couldn't continue to do it with all of the support of you all.
I always say that, you know, we may never have done this, but it's this type of virus and sickness is nothing new to our people. You know, it's nothing new, but we have to remember that long before, you know, like our time, our ancestors, they dealt with, you know, various illnesses and viruses and sicknesses that came to our territory that were brought on by, you know, the non-indigenous people, settlers. And, you know, I have to remind myself of that, you know, that our ancestors dealt with this type of problem. And it's also, you know, there are songs, ceremonies, and medicines, and our, you know, our traditional foods that have nourished us and have gone, you know, have made us, you know, have made them persevere and strive and live through those times. So as I mentioned, you know, our ancestors, and the ones who have paved the way for us. They've done that. They've been through it, and with that being said, we're just following in their footsteps of those who cared for each other back in the day, and we're doing the same thing here, but in a modern time, using what we have to really uplift and nourish our communities in this way. And the other viruses that have that have come here too, weren't just bodily and fluid and viruses, but it's also, what I say is that one of the most virus that still exists is the virus of greed, the virus of ego, and those are the reasons why, that colonization, those are viruses that within itself that continue to plague our homeland, that continue to plague our people and our way of life, and that bring destruction to all life and all beings on this earth. So we have been doing this, and those other viruses that I mentioned, the virus of colonization and ego and capitalism, is something that we all as a humanity have to come together and really cure it or fight it and fight back against those types of diseases and viruses as well. We also are a collective. It's not just me, myself, and Kim, but also we have relatives from down south, and as well as indigenous relatives from down south and in the east coast of this country who have been here with us, really in kinship and in solidarity to help us get this work done.
Buenas, ¿cómo están todos por ahí? Mucho gusto. Acá me llamo Víctor. Un saludo para todos ustedes allá, y bueno, pues estamos muy contentos de estar acá. Yo soy de Perú, de Sudamérica, pero ya vivo acá en Turtle Island. Ya estoy como más o menos la mitad de mi vida viviendo acá. Y bueno, estamos yo y bueno, los llamo mis amigos, pero son más como familia, ¿no? Otras dos personas que están allá, ellos son de México. Y pues todos vivimos juntos, vivimos en Utah, en Salt Lake City, Utah, pero estamos acá apoyando a nuestra familia acá, a nuestra familia de Ne, ¿no? En el trabajo que están haciendo, en el mutual aid, en repartiendo la comida, limpiando, sanitando, desinfectando todo, ¿no? Y estamos haciendo esto desde que empezó esta epidemia. Pero lo que yo quiero decir, este es un trabajo de amor, es un trabajo de solidaridad, es un trabajo para nosotros, es una responsabilidad más que todo, ¿no? Porque sabiendo que nosotros no somos de esta tierra, que hemos venido también a estos lugares, a este país, a estas tierras como inmigrantes, ¿no? Pero hemos venido, conociendo la historia de todas estas tierras, conociendo la historia de las naciones indígenas, especialmente de lo que se llama los Estados Unidos, pero especialmente de lo que es el Southwest, lo que es Arizona, lo que es México, Nuevo México, lo que es Utah y Colorado, o conociendo la historia de las cuatro esquinas o de los four corners. Nosotros nos sentimos con la responsabilidad de apoyar a nuestros amigos y a nuestra familia indígena acá. No es nuestra responsabilidad, esto es nuestra obligación de apoyar. ¿Y por qué? ¿Por qué digo responsabilidad? Porque también nos damos cuenta de que estamos ocupando y estamos viviendo en territorios que son tradicionalmente y siempre serán tierras indígenas. No importa cómo los llamemos, no importa que tengan diferentes banderas, no importa que les pongan los nombres de diferentes estados, la realidad es que estas tierras siempre han sido, siempre serán pues tierras indígenas, no importa quién viva ahí, no importa quién las ocupe y quién las haya invadido, ¿no? Entonces esto es una labor de amor, es algo que llegamos todos juntos y empezamos a trabajar en esto, pero para ser honestos, esta labor de apoyar a las comunidades indígenas, de defender la tierra, de defender el agua, de luchar por las personas, es algo que nosotros hemos estado haciendo pues por mucho tiempo. Entonces esas son las conexiones que nosotros hemos, a lo largo de este camino, a lo largo de este sendero, de este trabajo, las que hemos creado entre nosotros, ¿no? Entre diferentes personas indígenas, no solo de estas tierras, pero también de como le decimos, del sur de la frontera colonial, ¿no? De lo que es el borde entre los Estados Unidos y México, No, yo personalmente, yo vengo del Perú, yo vengo de la región del Amazonas del Perú. El nombre de mi tribu es de la gente Yagua. Y pues como les dije, vine acá, me moví a los Estados Unidos con mi familia cuando tenía como 16 años, pero este trabajo más que todo, como les digo, es un trabajo de liberación, un trabajo anticolonial, anticapitalista, es completamente grassroots, es por las comunidades, es completamente descentralizado, completamente autónomos, acá no hay líderes, pero todos nosotros nos apoyamos unos a otros y apoyamos a la gente, ¿no? Traemos nuestros propios talentos, las cosas que sabemos hacer, cada quien tiene sus propios talentos, sus propias cosas que ellos que hacen, que son expertos, ¿no? En diferentes cosas, ¿no? Entonces eso es lo que está pasando ahorita. Pues no sé qué más decir, pues necesitamos todo el apoyo necesario, ¿no? Y eso es parte de la responsabilidad exactamente para nosotros también como gente que no es de nuestra tierra, ¿no? Cómo somos cómo somos accountable por nuestra presencia en esta tierra. Y una manera de eso es apoyando a las comunidades que viven en esta tierra, las comunidades que han estado acá desde el principio, ¿no? Las comunidades indígenas, las naciones, las tribus alrededor de los lugares en donde vivimos, ¿no? Y hay muchas comunidades indígenas, muchas naciones, y eso es lo bello de esta tierra, ¿no? Y ahora con el COVID-19 que está golpeando fuerte, especialmente la reservación, la nación Navajo, ¿no? Entonces hay mucha necesidad de apoyo, hay mucha necesidad de solidaridad, pero lo que queremos es algo real, algo honesto, ¿no? Como decimos, no, pues no estamos interesados en trabajar con entidades del gobierno o con corporaciones o con otras diferentes organizaciones, ¿no? Entonces lo que estamos interesados es trabajar con la gente, con las comunidades, con las personas que de alguna u otra manera están luchando por sus propias comunidades y por sus propias tierras, como mi hermana y mi hermano acá, ¿no? Ellos dos, ¿no? Para mí son un gran ejemplo. Estoy contento de estar acá. Ya van a ser como 2 veces que estamos acá haciendo este trabajo día tras día y tras día. Y pues de alguna manera haciéndolo con un buen corazón, haciéndolo con una buena actitud, con mucho amor, y como se dice también con mucha solidaridad real, ¿no? Y pues ya, no sé si tienen algunas preguntas.
Pues deja tratar de traducir todo eso.
¿Al inglés?
So his name is Victor, and he said, "What's up?"
Now
He
he's
said, "What's up?"
translating.
Yeah.
No, he's from el camarada Victor's from Peru, from an indigenous area of Peru near the Amazon. He's been up here with some brothers from Mexico in solidarity with Kim and Mackay and the Dene Nation. They're helping do mutual aid work, and he says they do it from a perspective of solidarity, of liberation, of working hand in hand with people to not from charity but from solidarity, to support not just support each other through this, but to build power and strength and liberatory practices. They all bring skills, they bring traditions, they bring stories, they bring medicine, they bring love, and it's an act of love that they're doing of people the people love, and they're in Utah, but they've been down here now for a couple of months helping out as much as they can, as best they can, again from a perspective of love and solidarity. There was a lot more in there, but most of it was in emphasizing those basic principles of work in solidarity, not of charity, of love and not pity, and of building strength and liberation and not more dependency. So, thank you, Victor.
Gracias. Nada.
So, we met Victor and some of the comrades and relatives, not just when we were here, but we were doing other movement work resistance work throughout this country, and even here within our territory, going to various actions, various protests and ceremonies, and that's how we were able to connect with brothers like Victor and our other comrades inside. You know, they and it was through that, you know, we built this kinship, and here they are today. And it reminds me too of, you know, when the sicknesses back in the day, when it came to our territory, here into the Southwest, you know, a lot of our people, even Pueblo people, you know, they looked out for each other. So within that same mindset and with that same heart and prayer.
And we were like trilingual. We
Yeah.
knew more languages than our own.
Mm-hmm. And back in the day, you know, we went to them, and we've helped each other with medicines and food and prayer. So it's kind of like the same thing, but, you know, in a more modern way.
Sí, que conoció a Víctor y los otros camaradas, no nomás haciendo este trabajo, pero anteriormente en otro trabajo solidario en diferentes partes de Estados Unidos. Y que el trabajo que se está haciendo así entre diferentes, como apoyándose entre diferentes comunidades, también tiene base en la historia y la tradición, que siempre los pueblos y las naciones se han apoyado unas a las otras, yendo o trayendo ayuda y reforzándose así como ha sido necesario. Y que a base de ese trabajo se forman no nomás amistades, pero familia.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you all. We actually have to get back to work now, but we really do appreciate all of the love and support that you all have been giving us. Not only now, but for as long as we've met, if we've met. And to new friends, new compas, compañeras, we're sending you so much love and solidarity from our community to yours. We'll get through this. We have to work in collective to, you know, really reduce our risk and the risk of our community members and our elders and our children. You know, this is really where we have to be disciplined and persevere and really be there for each other as well. So from our heart and our communities to yours, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So the situation on the Navajo Nation is something we must all tune into and find ways to address, and we must stand in solidarity with our brothers, sisters in the mutual aid network that Kim Smith and all those other organizers are doing. So right now we're blessed to hear poetry from Chastity Salvador, and Seneca will be introducing her right now.
Okay. So now we're blessed to hear poetry from Chastity Salvador. So Chastity Salvador is from Acoma Pueblo. She's an auntie, a daughter, a sister, writer, poet, farmer, and a multi-community member. In her current role with Tewa Women United, and among many interests, she focuses her academic, professional, and personal growth journeys on practicing healing among and uplifting Indigenous women, young people, and Earth Mother. Her educational background includes a bachelor's in comparative studies in race and ethnicity, with a concentration on Indigenous issues and solidarity. It is her passion to pursue a lifelong journey of learning from and connecting back to the cultural and ecological teachings from community teachers and elders. So let's welcome Chastity.
Thank you all for having me. If you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, that'd be good. Awesome. So I'll just jump right in, and I read this poem a couple weeks ago, but I really want to dedicate it to the people who are on the front lines. It's titled An Ode to Places I Love Beyond Words. Growing up, I surrendered to the mountain that birthed me. Her name is Coeshtima, Mount Taylor. Her name is my auntie's name, and they are both so beautiful, colors so unexplainable, I could only see them in my dreams. Imprinted footsteps as I dreamed of a brighter future for my people. She protected me, and she guided me. My father told me stories about her, his hands flowing back and forth to the anthems of her snow laid upon her head like a halo. She even gave grace to the world's hardest stone. He showed me an image she made as she trolled around in her sleep, or maybe as she watched over the people, turning to her side. Amome, Hano, the people, I hear her say, and when she turned, the ancestors walked my way, and I welcomed them with my small and dirt-painted arms, and I felt love. The kind of love you feel when thousands of suns cover your face after a long splintered winter, or like the hugs coming home from your fathers. Because you see, when you are a res kid with the only thing to look forward to is an ice cream truck driving into your yard, hoping the colors of the rainbow would drown away your sorrows, the mountain feeds you. Mountains or oceans of love and hope, mountains tenfold unfold me into ribbons of her beauty, her strength, I pray. So I'm able to fly high with the ravens when I dance harvest and my hair moves to the rhythms of her divine. As a young Pueblo woman, she is a red carpet, a blueprint on how to be. She is my teacher, my mother. I learn from her. Say her name. Say her name, say her name, say her name, say her name. She is Chaco Canyon. She is Coestima, Mount Taylor. She is Bears Ears. She is the Mauna Kea, the Quotes, the mountain. She is me, and I am her. They asked me to be as strong as the land that built me. But how can I be when she is suffering too? When her body is pierced and her blood is being drawn without her permission, how could they do that? Whoever had the idea to interrupt the divine, Mama? What does that mean, Mama? What then is going to happen to me? Mama, answer me. I remember the first time I heard the term no man's land. As I stood there and smirked, the ink in my hands trembled my whole body, and I remember thinking, this is how they categorize a place so sacred, so holy, a place made of life and song and dance, a mirror of me and my walking body and my ever-loving and growing spirit. They might as well have said no man's woman, I thought. And I am transported back into the earth with so much shame and hurt. I know this is not how I was meant to return to her. Amo, the Mauna, the goat, the mountain, the canyon, the watershed, the ancient ruins. Who protects them? Who feeds them? Who is going to hear their names? Who is going to speak their names? Because they are me, and they are you. Who is going to protect me? Who is going to protect us when she's gone? Say her name. 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 Thank you.
Thank you for such a beautiful poem, Chastity. Our partners down in Albuquerque, Fight for Our Lives, are leading important work. As you know, Fight for Our Lives is a network of students from across New Mexico working to uplift and empower the youth of Albuquerque through civil engagement and nonviolent strategic direct action. Zoe Kraft co-founded Fight for Our Lives, and she is a special operations director for the organization. She's currently organizing for the Albuquerque Mutual Aid Project. And thank you for being here, Zoe.
Hi, everyone. So I am currently working with Albuquerque Mutual Aid, and I am a recent graduate of La Cueva High School here in Albuquerque, and I'm currently a freshman at UNM. I'm studying political science and business. And yeah, like she said, I'm currently serving as the Special Operations Director for Fight for Our Lives. So Fight for Our Lives as an organization has done a really wide variety of work in the past, which includes organizing the March for Our Lives Albuquerque, shutting down the NRA police shooting competition, organizing the Albuquerque Youth Climate Strike Blockade, and a Roundhouse Climate Sit-In, which we actually did with Yucca as well. So what is mutual aid and what are we doing in the community right now? So mutual aid is a community care organizing practice that has really existed for centuries, and it's part of the lifestyle that has been handed down to us from our ancestors that colonization has tried hard to erase, but it's really just founded in getting people to come together to meet each other's needs, recognizing that as humans, our survival is dependent on one another and not greed fueled by a capitalist society. So what does mutual aid look like in a global pandemic? As community organizers, we are very familiar with rapid response mobilization, but mutual aid is a unique opportunity to unite people across the planet and strive towards a common goal of sustainability. And mutual aid intersects with every other struggle all across the world. So in terms of how mutual aid relates to the climate crisis, the same vulnerable populations who are on the front lines and who are most affected by the COVID-19 crisis are also those same populations that are going to be hit the hardest by the effects of this climate crisis. But mutual aid really provides us with the foundations to build a system that's reliant on human solidarity and to create a future where we aren't reliant on the exploitation of resources as well as systems of oppression that uphold systems of supremacy. And this pandemic in many ways has only amplified the ways in which capitalism is already failing millions of Americans, is taking countless lives. And Albuquerque Mutual Aid began on March 16th with just a Google form where community members could request assistance and where other community members who had the capacity could step up and offer that assistance. And since that first day, we've grown into a coalition of organizations. So it's Fight for Our Lives, Save the Kids, as well as Millions for Prisoners New Mexico. And that's in addition to over 50 volunteers who pack and deliver care packages for at-risk families every single day. So according to our 1-month report, which came out a few days ago, we've reached over 1,000 families and fed over 4,400 people in the past 31 days. So it's really been rewarding to see the huge difference that this kind of work can make within our community. I would also like to share with you all the Fight for Our Lives website, which is the main resource for our mutual aid work. So there is a donate button for anyone who is able to donate monetarily, as well as a button for those who might like to volunteer. And then towards the bottom down here, there's also resources to request a care package for those in the Albuquerque area in both English and Spanish. So this is definitely a resource that if anyone would like to share widely throughout the community. And the website would be ffol.org/mutual aid. And that's gonna link you to all of those resources. And Fight for Our Lives is also sponsored by the Southwest Organizing Project. Our social medias are here, and feel free to get in contact with us to find ways to either help out with our mutual aid effort or for more information to begin a mutual aid project in your own community.
Well, thank you so much for all of your work. Next up, we have Extinction Rebellion. So Extinction Rebellion Climate Action Santa Fe will be sharing their art build that they launched this week, featuring community members from around Santa Fe. Extinction Rebellion works to contribute toward a global movement of sustained nonviolent direct action and mass-scale nonviolent civil disobedience, which forces the government to take meaningful action on the climate. So here's their project. So thank you so much to Extinction Rebellion for putting that together. Now we're going to be hearing from Roger Montoya from Moving Arts Española, sharing about efforts up north in the area. So Roger Montoya is an artist, grassroots activist, celebrated youth worker in Española. Roger has played an instrumental role in mutual aid efforts in the Española Valley with a network of partners. So thank you so much for being here, Roger.
There we go. Is that good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So sorry. And thanks for the opportunity. What beautiful messages and work that I've seen so far. Really humbled and touched by the work on the Navajo Nation, especially. My heart aches for what's happening with the tribal communities and those that are really disproportionately affected by this particular pandemic and all of the systems that we can see so clearly that are broken in our world. I'm an artist, first and foremost. I started a project called Moving Arts Española about 12 years ago with my partner. And I've been doing this activism work around the arts and education for 30 years in the Española Valley. We're located on the tribal community of Okewinge, and we reimagined an old casino, the first casino in our region, as a vibrant destination, a safe haven for children and youth. We see 450 kids a week when we're normally in session. Some of the emergency work that we're doing right now in the north is called the Northern New Mexico COVID Response Food and Supplies. So we have 9 nonprofits that I pulled together that are working across from the Jicarilla Nation, Santa Clara, the Sikh community, all the way up into northern Rio Arriba County. And we're doing a variety of things. We're serving hot meals, gift packages of meals, backpacks for children. We're dovetailing with the public school meal drop-offs and ensuring that we can do as much as we can. We've raised about $35,000. Our main partner is the Santa Fe Community Foundation at the moment, but we're leveraging and coalescing in such beautiful ways. I created a slideshow that I'm going to try to bring up. It's some of my paintings from the last 25 years that focus on the earth, the water, the land, the seeds, the plants that nourish us. And I just want to kind of in a free-form way, it's a running slideshow and I'll try to make it brief. Yes, okay. This painting was created about 15 years ago and it's in my garden. I taught myself to paint in oil. When I was a dancer touring in Europe, I looked at the museums and the landscape painters and the impressionists. And this particular scene is from the Rio Grande. This is a poppy that my late father planted in my garden, and it returns the plant every year. Vibrant, beautiful pink. This pumpkin was created from squash that I actually grew in my own garden, and it speaks to the universality of food. This road is a beautiful man-made road that dissects through the landscape in between Toulouse and Española in the springtime. This cactus grows in my garden. I planted it with my mother from a small piece that we pulled from a hike 30 years ago, and it's an enormous mother. This tree is on the Pueblo of Okewinge, and it speaks to me. It's the grandmother tree. It brings me wisdom and hope, and it's done in the midsummer. This piece was done on the beach in Mexico. I traveled there because my partner is from Guadalajara, and we share a lot of the cultural beauty, and it reminded me of the Diego Rivera moments. This is a beautiful plant, the mullion in French, and it's known as for its healing properties for the lungs, very appropriate for today. This is the valley of Velarde, and the lone house there intersecting the fields speaks to the bounty and the beauty of the fall. This is a porch scene done in Dixon at my grandmother's home. The chair reminds us of the fragility and beauty and strength of our elders, celebrating Mother Earth. This is looking towards Taos in the fertile agricultural areas that bestow the bounty of food along the beautiful waterways. This is an image I did way back in the early part of the 90s for a poster celebrating living with AIDS and HIV for more than 36 years. This piece again is in the poppy garden of my father, who's no longer with us. But every time that they come out, I'm thrilled to have them. This was a very small pumpkin that had the most beautiful, beautiful handle, if you will. This is the red place in Abiquiu, and it touches me to stand before this land and honor it in the hot sun, painting with the pigments. This is a piece I did early on, about 1980, and it was an imaginary scene when I lived in New York City as a dancer of the region I now live. This is a poster that was made as an AIDS benefit for a show in Los Angeles and Española. There's just a couple more. This is the beautiful site in the Chama River. It's a large painting, 5 by 5, and it's in the fall last year, just as the cottonwoods were changing. This is another version of the grand sunflower, El Girasol, that speaks and follows the sun so beautifully with wisdom and strength. This is a Rio Grande. I'm going to stop here and just share a little bit with you all. I've decided this year to run for political office. I've been an activist protecting the homeless, people in recovery, food systems, and mostly children. And my heart aches for what's happening across this planet. And I asked myself at 60 years old, could I make a broader difference? Should I enter as a policy maker in hopes to convince people that now is the time? So I'm running for House District 40. It's a vast area, as big as the state of Vermont, seemingly. It's mostly rural, filled with brown people who are underserved. And I'm going to bring my heart and my wisdom and my care that I learned from my grandmother and my mother of how to lead from a place of nourishment, not from the male-dominated society of control, manipulation, and taking. I want to find a way to create collaborative moments of truth-telling and truth to power. Wish me luck, and what an honor to be with all of you today.
Hey everyone, my name is Lupe Salazar, and I run Barrios Unidos in Chimayo, a nonprofit. This nonprofit was designed to help individuals struggling from addiction, to support families shattered by the addiction, re-engage community through the spirit of querencia. And my definition of querencia is the folk term of love of place, land, culture, and people. If we do not learn to love them, we will never defend them. I started this organization here in Chimayo 5 years ago, and I've been looking at addiction, especially heroin addiction, for the past 15, 16 years. And it started because I was trying to find support for my son. My son, I have seen him at his worst. He has been a prisoner of the drug war, and I love him. And I was not going to just sit there and allow him not to find the support that he needed. So this is where my journey began. I earned my degree at Northern New Mexico College, a bachelor's in integrative health science, and it opened a world of healing paradigms. When we first got the information that we were on lockdown, that we had to practice social distancing, I immediately thought of the many different clients that come to Barrios. And I thought, you know, you don't, we've established a type of rapport of trust, a type of bonding where people could come over and share. And I was devastated because I thought, what's going to happen if, you know, one of our grandparents or one of the peers that come over does not have someone to talk to, somewhere to go, somewhere to reach out for support. And so, you know, I reached out to the Food Depot in Santa Fe, and I told them, you know, I don't want to stop the food distribution. You know, right now, my people, my community need me more than ever, need Barrios more than ever. And it was because it was important that we can keep this connection, keep the dialogue going. You know, dialogue was something that we didn't have in my area, you know, years back. There was nowhere that you could go and talk to anyone about addiction. You know, if anyone knew that you had addiction in your family, you know, you're a bad parent, you know, who knows what you did. And so there was that shame, that shunning, that discrimination, that stigma. And through these years, you know, being here for support, reaching out, being able to speak and have that connection with my peers, I didn't want to lose that connection. So when I spoke to them at the Food Depot, you know, they said that it would be fine if we continued food distribution. We also have a calendar of events that we do something every day. To me, it was really important. And everything that we do here at Barrios is something that affected me in one form or another. And so I thought, well, you know, we might not be able to have movie night, but now we'll read online. And so we do something on Friday nights via Facebook, and it seems like it's been pretty positive. We are reaching out to our grandparents through our Querencia, Abuelitas de Querencia project. And with that, now through collaboration with Guru Simaron Khalsa from the Sikh community, she brings us snack packs for our grandparents. We make activity packs for the grandchildren. We conjure up some self-care products, anywhere from bath soaks to lotion bars to hand sanitizer. We've sent some dish towels, some you know, to wash the dishes, to dry the dishes. You know, today I went out and I bought some masks because they were finally available. And so it's just these little care packages, un cariñito, so that they know that they have not been forgotten, and that you know, that they can call us, and that you know, if they need to talk or if they just want to hear our voice, you know, that we're here. They know that we're here. They know that we are committed, and I think that takes a little bit off of the edge of the virus. And you know, I don't want folks to think of me as calloused, but my main focus and my vision has always been to those voiceless, the unseen, the unheard, the unwanted, the left behind, and that's the addict. We can't separate them. No matter what, we cannot separate them. It is a unit. You know, you can't help the addict without helping the child, without helping the family, without strengthening community. And the reason I say that was because when I first started started Barrios Unidos, one of my board members at the time was really angry. He became very abusive, and he told me, well, you need to pick, Lupe. Are you going to help the addict, the children, or the family. And I remember looking at him and telling him, how can you separate? You can't, you can't just tend to the children, because these children go back home, and more than likely the addict somehow is still there. We are from northern New Mexico. We're from the norte. We don't just give up on our family. We don't just toss them to the curb. When I was pregnant with my son, never in my mind did I think, when my son turns 18, he's going to become a tecato. He's going to become a drug addict. Never. But those were the systemic issues that led to his addiction. He became an intravenous drug addict in our county jail in Española, where he should have been paying back his debt to society. It didn't happen that way. So I go back and I say, we can't separate a lot of these grandparents and great-grandparents, because we have 60 to 65% of us grandparents in Rio Arriba County raising our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren with little to no support. And the support we get, we fight for it tooth and nail. I know I did. I know lots of grandparents that have. And so, I know that, we have these parents, which are the grandparents, but they're still juggling, wondering, how do I find support for my son, for my daughter, and take care of the children, and, sustain ourselves so that we can keep on. And then that brings us to community. If we have broken families, then the community is going to take the blunt of it. But I see it in a different way. I see it as if we can collaborate and work together and understand this addiction. We have addictions that stem from cultural trauma, generational trauma, traditional, the different systemic issues that lead to trauma. To me, I've come to understand that this is all a type of soul sickness, a soul loss. They're covering up something that, they might not even know why. We have generational addictions and generational traumas. And so when we were, told about, the virus and how we had to stay away and how all these things were shutting down, I immediately thought of, my grandparents and the clients that come here and what that was going to mean to them if they had no one. So we found a way to become an essential organization, an essential nonprofit, and we do these things. We're able to provide support, and so I know that it's really important for Barrios Unidos to let community know that that we're not alone and that together we'll get through this. A few weeks ago, I read in our local newspaper, the Rio Grande Sun, that Rio Arriba County was donating these hospital beds. And I thought, what the heck? We had these hospital beds when I had been begging for a crisis triage hospital. We don't even need a building. We can just use a damn tent. But bring these people. Let's put the MATS program there. Let's have a wraparound support of a MATS program, mental health, behavioral health, all under one tent. But we don't have that. We have one here, and then you go to Santa Fe or you go to Albuquerque, and you get the rest of it. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So when we're done with this COVID, that's one of the questions that I am going to bring up at the next legislature, because it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair In Rio Arriba County alone, I know we have had millions upon millions upon millions of dollars drizzle into Rio Arriba County to help people struggling with addiction. And the numbers are staggering. We're still dying. But then they're classified as something else at the Office of Medical Investigation. They're classified as something else. And that's wrong. Because you know what's happening is these children that are separated, that are torn apart from their families, they're going to grow up and they're going to have that empty space. And unless we come together as a community, as a strong family, la familia, they're too going to have that empty space. And what happened with that empty space? It's trauma. And how do we fill that trauma? With deviant behaviors. So I reach out and I ask people, let's work together. You know, let's come together to, you know, to keep people safe, to keep our communities safe, to keep our families safe. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. You know, we're a crafty people. We utilize, you know, we may not come from a lot of money, but we know how to utilize resources. We know how to recycle, I guess would be the word. I've recycled a lot. But, you know, sometimes it's a lot about just us being together and just knowing, you know, that your neighbor's there and, you know, you can pick up that phone. And, you know, right now we're practicing the social distancing, which I appreciate and I respect. But at the same time, the fear of being alone, that's something that we don't need. You know, we have been discriminated and stigmatized when we struggled, when we were floored with the opioid epidemic. We struggled big time. We suffered silently. And I say no more. We don't suffer silently. We have each other. We have great collaboration with different organizations in Santa Fe, in Rio Arriba, you know, in different counties. And so I thank everyone that's out there. I thank you for your support. I thank you for listening to us. I thank you for letting us work together. I'm not sure like what else, you know, we could do other than what we've been doing. And that's, you know, the different places, you know, coming together and, you know, bringing groceries, bringing, you know, diapers, bringing the essentials. You know, we're not asking for all these elaborate gifts. We're just asking for just basics. And, you know, we're worth it. You know, I envision an individual that has healed from addiction. I can taste that. You know, I envision them as being whole, body, mind, and emotion. And a strong individual will take back their family. And a strong family unites the community, strengthens the community. And a strong community can change the world. And that's my hope. That's my dream. That's my desire. Thank you everyone for listening. Bendiciones. Un gran abrazo. Good night. Adios.
My name is Aaron Gallegos, Las Vegas, New Mexico. I am part of a couple separate groups. The first group I belong to is the Vagabonds. One of the things that we do, myself, my sister Alicia Gallegos, Sarah Jo Matthews from Borrachos, or formerly of Borrachos, hopefully soon to be Borrachos again. April Rains Hoover Hughes and Jacqueline Casados. As a community group, we get donations, get food donations, monetary donations, and we distribute on Mondays to our elders in the community as well as medically fragile individuals. On Tuesdays, we seek out the homeless, in Las Vegas, as well as an outpatient community. We have the Behavioral Health Institute here in Las Vegas. Several of those people, when they're discharged, go to outpatient or residential homes. Not to say that they're not well cared for, but they could be cared for better. So on Tuesdays, we seek them out to provide them with food. And on Wednesdays, we provide food boxes to our service industry personnel, that being hairdressers, waiters, beauticians, servers, anybody. And actually anybody that needs help. We've been doing that since this started. We've been blessed with the amount of donations that we receive from our community members, money, food stuff. They've been more than kind to us. Another project, I'm not sure if I'm still on. Oh, there we are. Hi.
Hi.
Was I supposed to be talking yet or not yet? Because I just started talking. I wasn't sure. I hadn't done a meeting with you yet.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was just checking in to make sure that this was like clear and that you got on okay and stuff like that. So I totally didn't mean to interrupt your little speech.
No, you're absolutely fine. So should I talk, or are you gonna ask me questions, or how do you want to do this?
You should do it just from your heart, whatever you want to share. And basically, you know, I'm actually going to leave you so that you can do it. And then if you're like, oh no, I wanted to say it this way, you could like do it again. Basically, we're just like,
okay,
using this recording like as though we're like shooting a movie kind of.
Okay.
And so, yeah, just like make sure to share about the great work that y'all are doing. And then also kind of what you feel like the lessons are right now for us in terms of society. Because of course it's part of this Earth Day event. So it's like a larger kind of conversation around economic justice and stuff like that. So anyways, thank you so much for being here. And it's really nice to meet you like in person as this is.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. That's very nice of you.
Of course. Okay, thank you so much. So good luck. And I will I'm just gonna stop my video and turn on mute and go away and break a leg.
Okay.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
Take care, bye-bye.
Bye.
So this is take 2, I guess. My name is Aaron Gallegos. I represent 2 separate groups here in Las Vegas. The first is the Vagabonds, and I will explain what that is right now. We are a community group made up of 5 somewhat good friends. Well, my sister's part of the group, Alicia Gallegos. Sarah Jo Matthews invited us to be a part of that group. April Hooger Hughes Rains is also part of the group, as is Jacqueline Casados. And Sarah Jo had this thought and it was actually going to be a one-time thing, to try to get food donated to us to help our elderly here in this community. We have a huge elderly population as well as medically fragile. But through the generosity of this community and in the kindness of others, we've been able to maintain what we've been doing for several weeks now. And what we do is we collect mostly cash donations, but also food donations. And on Mondays, we go out again to our senior citizens, to the elderly, or to medically fragile individuals and take them food boxes. On Tuesdays, we seek out the homeless population in Las Vegas, as well as the huge outpatient population that we have in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is home to the Behavioral Health Institute. And a lot of these people, when they're discharged, have no place to go. They don't go back to the community, so they stay here in outpatient homes. And I wish they were better cared for, but they're not. So we try to do our best to feed them. And then on Wednesdays, we try to take care of the people who have been taking care of us prior to the COVID crisis. And these are our service personnel, musicians, bartenders, cooks, waitresses, anybody that you can think of that is now out of work, and we're trying to help them out the best that we can. Again, what we do is we collect food donations, we make food boxes for them. We've had several businesses that have really stepped up, making them cookies, making them tortillas, making fresh bread, a lot of different things, a lot of beautiful things that are going on here in Las Vegas. One of the other projects that I have working towards is Los 100 de Las Vegas, Los 100 meaning the 100. And that was a challenge to community members, 100 community members to be exact, to donate $100 and 100 hours of community service. And what we're doing with that money are beautification programs, talking about Earth Day stuff. We're repainting, and again, we're trying to help people who don't have the means necessarily to help themselves. We're helping out our senior citizens, we're helping the disabled. We paint fences, we paint houses, we clean yards. we do what we can do to beautify Las Vegas. This last Saturday, we had a huge community cleanup here in Las Vegas. We had about 127 people that actually showed up and signed up for the event, and we had people cleaning all over town. Actually, one of our bigger Earth Day celebrations. We're a very small town, so we are very fortunate that happened. We've really seen a tremendous impact in Las Vegas. We're made up of a lot of small businesses, mom and pop stores, and we have a lot of people struggling. The thing that really that bothered me is and I don't want to get too political right now, but Trump had always said that we had such a strong economy and our economy was booming. But 2 weeks into the COVID crisis, you saw people desperate for food, didn't have anything. They're having trouble keeping the lights on, paying rent, doing all these other things. And I thought if we really had such a strong economy, we'd have been able to sustain through. If not for the kindness of others, our community might not make it. We have a lot of the Salvation Army has really stepped up. The Samaritan House in Las Vegas has really stepped up. Our food pantries are really helping out a lot. So there's a lot of beautiful people in Las Vegas, and it's been a great thing to see the love that is being shown in this community. People taking care of each other, people taking care of their neighbors. That's one of the things that I really like about living in such a small, close-knit community, is we really look out for one another. Again, my name is Aaron Gallegos. I can be reached at 505-429-2298 if you know anybody in Las Vegas that is in need of anything. If we can't offer that service ourselves, we have, again, such a small community that I'm sure we can get that, whatever need there might be, we can get that met. Thank you again. I want to take up too much of your time. Keep up the good work, everybody else out there that's doing all these amazing things, and we'll talk soon, hopefully. Bye.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your work, and best of luck to you. Next up is Tara Trudell. She's a multimedia artist, and Tara weaves pottery, Tara weaves poetry, photography, film, and audio components into her work in order to express creative visions that address social issues and advocacy for Earth and elders. So let's please welcome Tara Trudell.
Thank you very much, Seneca, and thank you everybody who's come before me. It's been really nice to hear your words as well as see your artwork and to learn about current events in the Navajo Nation that are really troubling for all of us. And I want to share a poem with you tonight that I didn't write, but it was written about 41 years ago. And this poem is called Celebrate the Women and Children, Warriors. And it was written by Simon Ortiz, and it was written for my family members who had been killed in a fire. And this poem is what I think about the crisis we're in, and I think about this whether it's climate or the pandemic, and what can we change about it, and I don't know. But I know that one thing we can all do collectively on Earth Day and every day, because that's our power source, is to remember who we are as people, and to remember how we take care of our elders and how we pray to our ancestors and how that relates and how we treat Earth, because we are sisters. And so this poem here is for all of us. It's for the people who are losing their family members because they're not going to make it through this pandemic. It's for them. Celebrate them. Celebrate them. Celebrate them with your work, your struggle, your songs, your love. Celebrate them in the way that warriors return back to the earth. Celebrate their return so that life may continue. Celebrate their return so that our struggle may be strengthened. Celebrate their return so that our people may have hope. Celebrate their return so that we may continue. In this way, as the people say, we will carry out our true responsibility in caring for the earth. In this way, as the people say, we will carry out our true responsibility in caring for our people. In this way, as the people say, we will carry out our true responsibility in protecting the land. In this way, as the people say, we will carry out our true responsibility in fighting for humanity. Sorrow, yes, as you will, but your words voice courage. Sorrow, yes, as you will, but let your vision seek for truth. Sorrow, yes, as you will, but let your anger speak against injustice. Sorrow, yes, as you will, but let your strength be enduring. Celebrate the women and children warriors. Celebrate the sister and brother warriors. Celebrate the mother and father warriors. Celebrate the grandmothers and grandfather warriors. Celebrate them and we shall have compassion and love. Celebrate them and we shall continue to fight. Celebrate them and we shall continue to have courage. Celebrate them and we shall never lose them from our life. Speak for them now and the earth will endure. Speak for them now and the children will be strong. Speak for them now and the women will have courage. Speak for them now and the people will rise. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing such a beautiful poem with everyone. Next, we have Yang from the Navajo Nation, who is also a member of Yucca, and she will be sharing a piece that she wrote on the crisis. So take it away, Yang.
Yat esh a ran katiliri yinashia eshihinishlen na kai bashishim bitani dosiche na kai dashnele. Hello, my name is Yang, and thank you for joining this call to action during this global pandemic. I come from the Diné Nations in Farmington, New Mexico, and I am a steering committee member of Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, helping my people fight for their indigenous rights and homelands. I have a sacred duty to save Mother Earth and her creatures, a prophecy that was foretold by my elders before I was born. I was born in the communities that have been heavily impacted by contaminated air, land, and water, and at a very young age, I left my homelands to attend boarding school. Now, 8 years later, I study at New Mexico School for the Arts as a senior visual artist, and I advocate to speak for my people. My Native relatives and their sacred homelands are economically and systematically targeted in this corruption of extraction of unsafe and unjust development for resources. Unknowingly, this crisis has been going on for generations, affecting the most vulnerable communities in the United States and throughout the world. This virus has hit the frontline communities that have been more impacted by polluted air quality, poverty, lack of food, and water. The COVID-19 is only a piece of the global pandemic happening on Mother Earth. This concern is included in the Declaration of Climate Emergency, a sustainable resolution that we New Mexico youth have drafted for the environmental earth crisis. We created this list of demands to ensure that our state officials listen to the youth who have lived on the frontline communities and experience these environmental health conditions. For many years, the people have seen an irreversible change in color nature due to the chemical toxins that surround the atmosphere and the river that stands polluted to this day. The basic healthcare and survival necessities we called upon our elected officials to provide guidance in this crisis, but they did not address these issues or find solutions. We are in need of more survival resources more than ever in order to survive during this pandemic. A transition in life is opening our eyes to see the hidden desecration of the land for profit and creatures on Earth. Sooner than we imagine, the world is allowing and slowly showing our political leaders to stop profiting from benefiting from destroying the land. This polluted environmental chain is killing any living species on this earth, priceless life being sold. The power of money has made our humane decisions difficult to decide. The only thing we need to do to understand is to take care of our Mother Earth and her life on Earth. We need to listen to indigenous peoples, because this virus is an underlying situation to the injustice of indigenous communities throughout the United States. Farmington is home to 2 coal generating plants, 2 oil refineries, and 2 contaminated rivers. Double the environmental effects. They are not too far from the Greater Chaco region, where there are fine nanoparticles that go deep into the lungs from the well pads caused by drilling sites on the Navajo reservations. The long-term exposure to the air pollution increases the risk of death from COVID-19. For tribal nations like the Navajo Nation, they lack the basic infrastructure and fundings for the healthcare systems they vitally need.
The oil and gas companies that profit from chemically polluting the environment and desecrating the tribal nations are not charged with the creations of unhealthy diseases and illnesses and the death of people. Statistically, frontline communities exposed to the petrochemical industries are more likely to die from COVID-19. The state has told us that it was impossible to stop the economic supply and demand. But now in this global pandemic, we had to be forced to stop all operations, and this transition should make oil and gas companies pay for a just transition study to make the adequate change to sustainable economy, to healthy energy development for the environment and economy. But unfortunately for my reservation homelands, the fracking tactics are implemented to drill oil and gas barrels all over the unused tribal land. At alarming rates, Navajo families are suffering with no adequate food, shelter, water, or medicine, even more than ever. The air pollution surrounding the reservations are causing health-related problems to the climate. We need to make an adequate transition to justice that requires frontline communities who have been impacted by extractive fossil fuel epidemics and are in mobilization efforts of the government to get them to transition to the change of a renewable energy economy. These impacts hit our land-based communities the hardest, and the science is clear. We only have a few years left to rapidly shift to a carbon neutral economy to a sustainable transition. The extraction of fossil fuels in New Mexico poses a threat to our future Earth and economy. We need to recognize that our generation has a sacred duty to protect Mother Earth and all life on it. New Mexico is capable of changing into renewable resources in New Mexico, and we can allow Indigenous people to lead the necessary shift to a carbon-neutral economy with the leadership of Indigenous nations and Indigenous wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your words and your experiences. They're very powerful, so thank you. We're going to hear from Tomas Rivera, if he's still able to speak, who has been with the Chainbreaker Collective since it was founded in 2004. So the Chainbreaker Collective is a membership-led economic and environmental justice organization with over 700 dues-paying members in Santa Fe. So Chainbreaker organizes frontline community members directly impacted by housing, transit, and civil rights issues to make Santa Fe a more equitable city. So let's welcome Tomas.
Yeah, hi, thanks, and thanks for having us. So as you said, Chainbreaker is an economic environmental justice organization here in Santa Fe. We have been working in this community for the last 15 years, mostly doing transit justice work and anti-gentrification work in our city here. So as people have pointed out, this COVID-19 pandemic sure has highlighted a lot of the issues that people have been facing in our communities for a long time. The health crisis itself is new to the whole world, but all of the disparities and the inequities are not. Those are things that we've been working on as community members for a long time and winning. I think during this time, it's important for us to, Chainbreaker tries to get out the message that we are resilient people, we're a resilient community, and what we do well is not just survive, but thrive in the face of attempts to try to really put down us as people. And so some of the things that Chainbreaker has been doing in response to this pandemic is trying to think in the long term, how do we deal with these issues in a way that outlasts the pandemic and still helps us build power as a community and as a people in order to really do things like protect people in the long run. We've been focusing on protecting people. There's a lot of eviction moratoriums happening around the state and around the different cities. They're not anywhere close to strong enough what they need to be at all. We know that once these eviction moratoriums do get lifted, there's likely to be a wave of people getting evicted from their homes at that time when they're expected to pay back 2, 3, 4 months worth of rent after not having worked. So from our perspective, we're working to do whatever outreach we can while practicing what we refer to as solidarity distancing, in order to continue to build community, continue to build power, and continue to lean into our resilience and our ability to organize, so that once we defeat this virus, which we will as a species, we will have come out of it closer, one step or two steps or 5 steps closer to a more just society. And so we're really happy to be with our partners trying to make that happen. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your work. Next up, I have the pleasure of introducing my close friend Hana, who will be sharing some poetry. So Hana Laga Abram is Santa Fe's inaugural Youth Poet Laureate and a freshman at Middlebury College in Vermont. So here she is.
Thanks, Seneca, and thank you all for being here. This has been like really special to hear from all sorts of folks from different places and different ages. Really beautiful. Yeah, just as over here where I am, the sun is actually starting to go down already and it's darkening. So happy end of Earth Day. Detente. Stop. We mean it this time. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. Slow down until you are a spring creek. Then slow down more. Slow down until you are a ponderosa pine, thick with alluring scent, or a juniper tree releasing pollen into the wind. Then slow down more. Slow down until you are a rock, or better yet, the soil underneath that rock. Slow down until you can feel all of the small creatures moving inside you, coming and going, finding food and moisture, reaching roots deep into the dark. Down, slow down, down. There is so much motion, even when you are sitting still. There, look. We have been watching the skyscrapers in your mind begin to lean. We have been watching the desire in your skin turn to ash and violence, neglected. We have been watching the wisdom in your spine and foot soles become paper thin and squeaky like a bike that's out of use. We, wonder of your heart, are sickening with lack of praise. We are all implicated in this dying because we are all out of practice, breathing. What do you mean, you say? Am I not always constantly breathing? I could have sworn I learned that. Science class. No. Breathing does not mean taking air into your lungs, flooding your body with oxygen, exhaling carbon dioxide. That is only half the story. Breathing means courting air. Imagine it. This magical, complex, always moving substance we live inside, into body, through lungs and hair and blood, transforming it with your contact, the intimacy of your insides into a gift, a blessing to the green earth. Breathing is relationship, far more intimate and far more consistently terrifying than any lover's touch, but filled with the same indispensable nourishment and unutterable, fathomless longing. Slow down until we all start breathing again. Then, perhaps, we will begin to imagine what it means not to be able to breathe. What it means to lie masked by the plastic kiss of a respirator, unable to touch. what it means when the reason we are there is nothing more than simply that we wanted to feed our children. That we do not live in a spacious house with doors that lock and windows that pretend at being sky. That the storied system we, at birth, pledged our life to serve is slowly, rapidly, with a far too well-trained invisibility and speed, choking us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for such an incredible poem, Hana. Next up, we have Ruby, who is a Yucca Steering Committee member, and she's here to share with us about green and just recovery.
Yucca has long operated on the ideals that those most affected by the climate crisis should be at the center of the conversation, and that the place to begin solving these problems is where they cause the most harm to human life. There is no bargaining our future for the economy, and there is no bargaining our diverse communities for oil and gas. We have put our indigenous communities and our low-income communities at risk for too long, and now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we are seeing the impacts in devastatingly clear ways. The CDC advises one of the most effective ways we can protect ourselves from the virus is regular hand washing, but at least 30% of people in the Navajo Nation don't have access to clean running water in their homes, relying instead on public taps. Those living near oil and gas development are at higher risk of having respiratory complications in general due to particulate matter in the air, making these communities high risk for hospitalization if they do catch COVID-19. One elementary and high school in Counselor, New Mexico, has 30 different oil and gas wells within a mile and a half of it. How is it acceptable that the youngest and most vulnerable among us are exposed to these kinds of air pollutants every day? With the historic disenfranchisement and the environmental racism against them creating so many challenges, the Navajo Nation is seeing an infection rate of almost 4 times that of New Mexico, putting stress on already underfunded and short-staffed IHS facilities. In September, we came forward with 5 demands for our state government to begin dealing with the climate crisis. These demands continue to be relevant for reasons apparent long before the COVID-19 virus and exacerbated by it since. We understand the need for our leaders to focus on the health of our people right now, but there have been unique opportunities for change presented by the recent fall in oil and gas revenue worldwide. Our state will already be forced to confront the dependency we have allowed ourselves to have on the fossil fuel industry. We should use this challenge as an opportunity to grow the diversity of where our state revenue comes from. The fossil fuel industry only benefits a few while poisoning and taking advantage of our lands and our people. It's long past time we begin creating a just transition from a fossil fuel-based economy. We are calling for a just transition study and a fund to rebuild our state into a green economy. We need to ensure that the federal relief packages passed are invested in green businesses and jobs that provide vital services and promote the health and well-being of our communities in a sustainable way. It's time to end New Mexico's dependency on fossil fuel revenues, achieve carbon neutrality for our state, and build a sustainable economy that works for all New Mexicans. We cannot afford to waste our money on bailouts for the oil industry, and we cannot allow the cutting of regulations that protect our health. In that same vein, we need to support comprehensive climate legislation to achieve 100% renewables no later than 2030, and we need to recognize that nuclear energy is not renewable energy. This should be done with equity, racial, economic, and environmental justice, and community solutions at the center. Solutions like community solar legislation so that our communities can advance our climate mitigation goals now. Community solar is also an important opportunity for individual communities to build self-reliance in times of crisis and to create a local energy economy, keeping money in their community. If we as a state are going to prioritize the health of all of our citizens, we need a moratorium on fracking to protect our precious water and health. We call on the governor and other elected officials in New Mexico to declare a climate emergency. Our governor has shown an exemplary level of leadership in response to our current public health crisis, She's proven that she's able to prioritize the health and safety of our people. We are now calling on her to show that level of decisive leadership in the face of the climate crisis as well. Both crises are ones of public health and economic reliance on unsustainable industries, and both of them are urgent.
Thank you so much, Ruby, for sharing all of that information. As you know, daily life and practices have changed dramatically. In 2020, such a big year for elections in our state, the ability of New Mexicans to cast their ballots is vital. Joining us to talk about elections and voting is our New Mexico Secretary of State, Maggie Toulouse Oliver. So Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver has spent her career as a public official working for greater transparency and ethics in government, fair and efficient elections, and increased voter access. So thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you, Seneca. Thank you all for having me here tonight to celebrate one of my favorite holidays, Earth Day. I started out in politics many years ago now, working on environmental issues, and this is environmental issues are near and dear to my heart, and part of why I became so involved in politics here in New Mexico. Of course, as you all know, I don't have to tell anybody on this call, elections are one of the most critical ways that we can make our voices heard, that we can ensure that the right elected leaders are being put into place to make the right policy decisions around these issues that we all care deeply and passionately about. In light of the COVID-19 crisis, it makes our challenge as election administrators even greater to ensure that we are protecting the right of every single voter here in New Mexico and ensuring access to the ballot box while enabling voters to remain safe at home. So just briefly, I wanted to walk everybody on this call through how we are going to manage the election process this year. What we are going to do is mail an absentee ballot application to every single eligible voter for the primary on June 2nd. In New Mexico, you must be a registered major party voter in order to participate in the primary, which is another issue that we should all discuss at some point, opening up our primary elections. However, we have until May 5th if folks want to register as part of a major party, Democratic, Republican, or Libertarian, to participate in that party's primary election. Folks can go online to our portal at nmvote.org in order to do that. You don't have to physically go anywhere. However, if you don't have a New Mexico driver's license or ID and that's current or expired, you can call your county clerk and ask for her or him to mail you an application to register to vote on through the mail. You can now go online to nmvote.org as well to apply for your absentee ballot for that June 2nd primary. What we are doing, since the Supreme Court did not allow us to conduct a 100% vote by mail election, is we are asking every voter in the state that can vote safely from their home to do so. So to apply for that absentee ballot, again, by going online to nmvote.org, or as I mentioned earlier, we will be mailing an application to every registered Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian in the state starting next Monday. So if you fill out that application, you can pop it back in the mail. There is no postage required for that return application. If you don't want to go online or you can't because you or someone you know or love is on the wrong side of the digital divide. When ballots start getting mailed out, which is on May 5th of this year, you'll get your ballot in the mail. You can mark it safely and conveniently from your home and place it back in the mail at your convenience. As long as your county clerk gets your ballot back by Election Day, June 2nd, your vote will count. There is no cost to return your ballot. So what we are doing here in New Mexico is we are not charging a poll tax of postage to ensure that every single voter who wants to stay home and vote safely from their home is able to do so. The other reason why we're encouraging folks to vote absentee in this election is that we have a number of poll workers who are going to be out running all of our election day and early voting locations. Most of our poll workers in the state of New Mexico are in that critical age group of over the age of 60 that are most at risk to attract COVID-19. So again, not just for your own personal safety, if that's not something you're personally concerned about, for the safety of those individuals running our elections at the polls. Once again, let me just recap the critical dates, and I'll send y'all back to the rest of the program for tonight. May 5th, right around the corner, is the deadline to register to vote in the primary as a major party member, Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian. We will also be mailing out absentee ballots that day. You can apply for your absentee ballot online or with the paper form you get in the mail. As long as you get that in by May 28th, you can get your absentee ballot. And again, don't forget to return your absentee ballot by June 2nd. And lastly, I noticed somebody mentioned, if you haven't already, before you do any of this, make sure you get counted in the census. That's also a very easy process online, 100% this year. Every single person that's counted in the census means resources for our state from the federal government, and that's particularly important in our communities that have less. So please remember to make sure that you get counted in this year's census as well. And then once again, thank you, Seneca, and everybody for having me tonight. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this very special celebration. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Now, really quick, Lyla June wanted to jump in with a Yucca update that in relation to what you just shared. But thank you so much for sharing about how we can participate in our democracy. Now, Lyla?
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind everyone that Yucca is working on a voter's guide, and this voter's guide will highlight candidates that will protect the climate. Speaking of elections, and we're very excited to do this to really hold candidates accountable and also boost those who will fight for our future. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to hand it off to Maria Perez. So she was born and raised in Ecuador. Maria immigrated to the United States in the 1990s to pursue an education. She has crafted a career guided by her passion to address social disparities. A seasoned nonprofit leader, organizer, facilitator, advocate, educator, and coalition builder, Maria is a firm believer in the power of people coming together to address complex social problems. She is a national expert on the issue of ranked choice voting, and she believes that democracy is the ultimate health equity indicator. So she founded the firm Democracy in Action, which works at the intersection of equity and democracy in 2019. So let's welcome Maria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Seneca, and thank you, EarthCare, for co-hosting this, putting this together. It's nice to see some familiar faces on my gallery view. So yes, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about democracy following what Maggie had to say. We are having this primary election coming up. We're not able to do it all by mail, so please get your absentee ballots. Help everyone you know to request an absentee ballot. Make sure that everybody puts their ballot back in the mail. We need to do this. And, you know, as a follow-up to that, we have to be thinking about our November election and just sort of like elections moving forward, right? We're stuck with like a very like 1970s way of conducting elections, and here we are in 2020, and we need to modernize the way we do this. We need to have it make sense for our communities, for our realities, and our reality at this time includes this pandemic. So I'd like to think that we in New Mexico, like so many other states, are going to be having a special session of our legislature to address some of these issues. They will also have to address some budget stuff, of course, because everything has, the rug was kind of pulled out of that little sweet spot that we thought we were in the state before this pandemic. So it is super likely that the legislature will convene this summer sometime after the primary and hold a special session. And I just want to ask everyone of you to really engage on that, because issues about voting and elections are definitely going to come up, and we need to be like a strong advocacy block supporting any reforms that may come up. Vote by mail will definitely be one of them. I'm hoping that we can talk about ranked choice voting also as a companion reform to vote by mail. Some of you all live in Santa Fe and may be more familiar with ranked choice voting than others. There's, expanding early voting. There's a number of reforms that would be wonderful to have. We are blessed to have Maggie as our Secretary of State. She, alongside some legislators and some other folks in our government, have made New Mexico a really good state when it comes to elections. But we still have problems, right? We still have one of the least competitive states where our legislators are just basically once they win a seat, they're not gonna get voted out. And Eric knows a lot about this and would be happy to share, I'm sure. Why is this? Part of the reason of why this is because the ways in which we vote for elected officials. We have a first past the post system where all you need to do is get more votes than everybody else to win. And this creates an environment where people get elected often without a majority of the vote, particularly in the primaries. And B, where incumbents just always have the advantage, right? If you have name recognition, if you have already been in that seat, it is so likely that you'll just keep that seat forevermore. So this is not democracy, right? We need to fight for our democracy. It is being eroded at every moment. We see this. The way that I look at it is like it's a game of whack-a-mole, right? Like you make a win and then the bad guys come over here with some other nefarious plan, and then you have to go with that mole, and then once you whack that mole, they come up over here with another plan. So there's all kinds of voter suppression going on. We've seen in Wisconsin how, they decided that it was fine to make people vote in person, even though it's definitely killing people. I mean, we are in dire straits and we need to fight for our democracy. If we don't do it now, we are going to be very sorry. So I'll wrap up by saying, please make sure that everybody you know gets an absentee ballot. Please make sure that they know how to fill it out, that they fill out all the voter information in that envelope, on the back of the envelope of your absentee ballot. They'll ask your name, year of birth, and a signature, that sort of thing. Make sure that everything is filled out. And beyond that, beyond this primary, please make sure that you engage with a special session when it happens. Be looking for information about elections and voting and democracy, and support that, because we need every single person on this call and everybody that everybody knows on this call to be present and to advocate for a stronger democracy in New Mexico. So thank you so much. Happy to be here today, and looking forward to seeing who's next.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such important information. You actually gave a little preview of who's next. So next we're honored to have Eric Shimamoto on the call with us. So Eric is an activist and organizer in New Mexico who has been talking to groups all over the state about the dynamic in the New Mexico Senate that prevents us from truly addressing climate change, inequality, and access to healthcare and education. So he's here to talk about a campaign to fix the New Mexico Senate this year so that we can start building a stronger, more resilient state the moment that we emerge from the current public health emergency. So thank you for being here, Eric.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I am, and I'm going to be quick. This is a presentation, that I give in 45 minutes when I give the full presentation. But the short version is that I am here to pitch a campaign to accomplish everything that we've legislatively in New Mexico for over a decade. And I know that sounds crazy ambitious, and I haven't even told you yet that we can do it in the next few weeks. But that also means we've only got a few weeks to get this done. So when I say accomplish everything we've wanted to do for decades, I'm talking about both simple things and some very big things. Simple things like a solar tax credit to help consumers get off of gas and coal-powered electricity in their homes. But also community solar, so that whole villages, pueblos, and cities can break their addiction to coal and gas. And I'm talking about imposing real penalties on oil and gas companies for spills, about a moratorium on new fracking so that we can buy ourselves a little time in the fight against climate change. Also charging reasonable oil and gas royalties commensurate with the states around us so that oil and gas companies can help pay for the transition to a renewable energy economy, a just transition. And I say that we can do all of these things because everything that I just mentioned and more was approved by the New Mexico House of Representatives within just the last couple of years. And we have a governor who would have signed all of those bills if we could have just put any of them on her desk. And because it's Earth Day, I should point out I'm focusing on bills that are addressing climate, but there's an equally long list of things that we could have done on education, on healthcare, on economic justice. And the only thing that's stopping us, the only thing, has been that all of these bills go to the Senate and they die in committee. So that's why I've been focused lately on trying to fix the New Mexico Senate and the committees. And I'm here to tell you that we can get all of these things that I'm talking about done in the January legislative session, this coming January, by fixing those Senate committees right now in the June primary. And that's absolutely within reach because the committees in the Senate are currently in the control of just a handful of senators. And here those folks are. There were 6 of them, but one's retiring, so now there are 5. And all 5 of these folks are registered Democrats, but they throw their votes together with every Republican in the Senate to elect one of their own as the Senate president. And that's Mary Kay Papin. And once she's in that position, she gets to hand out all of the committee assignments. And she uses that power to effectively gerrymander all of the committees by spreading this handful of senators around so that they can be the swing vote and the kingmaker in each committee that they're on and on every single bill. And this is like I said, I'm giving a short version of this, but if you're interested in the history of how they've been doing this and just more of the details, just search my name on YouTube. I'm only in one YouTube video in the universe, and so it's a video in which I describe all of this in much more detail. But in order to fix this problem, we really only need to do something that's totally reachable. We need to get rid of a couple of these 5 folks on June 2nd. And because one is already retired, and if we get rid of 2 more, they wouldn't have enough votes to elect the Senate president, even with the help of the Republicans. And fortunately, all of these folks have a real challenger in the June primary. These strong challengers are running against all 5 of these senators. And like I said, we just need to win 2 of these 5 races. So that means that in this year's Democratic primary, we could nominate Democrats who would work together with fellow Democrats to address climate change and build a stronger, healthier, more resilient New Mexico. So here's what I need each of you to do right now. This is the one ask that I have. And that's to go to the website, nocorporatedems.com, and click on the button in the middle of the website that says Join the Movement. You'll be able to sign up for updates on how to help this completely online, socially distanced campaign, so you can do it from home. And while you're at it, also please go and smash the like button on the Facebook page, which is mentioned at the bottom of this slide, and follow the Twitter account. I know that a lot of folks, myself included, Facebook feels kind of silly, but let me tell you, in New Mexico, primary voters have Facebook accounts, so it really does make a difference to just boost the visibility of the Facebook page a little bit. And I believe I'm actually used my time, so I'll just close by saying, stay home, wash your hands, but also in June, vote like our lives depend on it, because they do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all that information. And thanks to you all for being here in solidarity on Earth Day 2020. So to wrap things up, we have the incredible Lyla June Johnston, who you saw for a moment earlier. And Lyla is an Indigenous environmental scientist, doctoral student, educator, economist, community organizer, and musician. So take it away, Lyla.
Thank you so much, Seneca, and thank you to the whole Yucca crew for taking the time to organize this amazing event. Thank you to all the speakers. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls in the past 3 weeks, as I'm sure you all have, and this is definitely the best one yet because of the heart and the soul of it, and the attention to structural racism, the attention to the displacement of indigenous peoples, the attention to centering youth and thinking 7 generations ahead, and all of those beautiful things that that Yucca tends to center. I'm so grateful to close this out, and I just have a little song to share, and also a little message. So, and I also have a dog, so I apologize if he barks. Okay, so here's my song that I wrote for the Black Hills, but also it's for all sacred sites. We were all given sacred duties to this land. Take care of Mother Earth, as she will help you understand that everything we need is in the palm of her hands. There's no need to drill, mine, conquer, or extract. With faith in the Creator, we will blaze a brand new path. When we let go of fear, the greed turns into laughter. Unity of all people, that is what we're after. I'm cruising down the red road with sweetgrass on my dashboard. I used to drug and drink, but now I'm sober, now I'm faster. Sharp as a tack, he told me can't hold me back now. I just want to build a new world for my children. With love, prayer, and unity, this nation is rebuilding up from the ash of genocide and division. Red, black, yellow, white as one, that's the vision. Every race participates in this new beginning. Sacred is the masculine and sacred is the feminine. Infinite, indigenous, continuous, deliberate. Nothing can stop the people once they got their intention set. Some people say that the land can be owned. Some people say that the land can be owned. But deep in our hearts, we know that isn't so, because we don't even own this flesh or this bone. No, we can't take it with us on the soul's journey home. The only thing we own is the lessons that we know. So when we wake from the slumber to remember we are one beautiful people under one beautiful sun, we must also release all claims to the earth, because she don't belong to us. We belong to her. Mother Earth was meant to be a place where we could learn. We pray to Sapa for a blessing on the world. We practice satyagraha because violence doesn't work. We pray for those who are injured and those who endure. Unconditional prayers for the whole wide world. We sun dance year round. Yeah, we let the sage burn, because when we pray for the people, we will start to understand what it means to be true woman, what it means to be true man. Cradled in the arms of the sky and the sand. I'm just a strand in the tapestry of the master plan, because together there is nothing that we cannot achieve. Together there is nothing that we cannot achieve. Find love, find healing, find unity. Honjon na hasli, honjon na hasli, honjon na hasli, honjon na hasli. So I like to share that song because it really invites us to unify across races, across genders, across orientations, political orientations, and remember that we do not own the earth, but rather we are the earth. And what we do to anything in this creation, we do to ourselves. And so I think what I would like to end on is just saying that after we've all been quarantined, there's sort of this idea that if human beings were to just go away, that there would be no problems in the environment, because as we're quarantined, you start to see dolphins come back to certain places and foxes running in the streets, and the earth is healing, which is beautiful. But I think this leads to a really dire misconception, which is that humans are a curse, or we are a problem. We're outcasts of creation. And I think that that is not true, and that my ancestors and all of our ancestors, if you go back far enough in time, proved that, because we took care of the land so good, and we took care of the land so well, like the Celtic nation that hand plants entire kelp forests, which increases the spawning ground for herring, or the Shawnee ancestors of Kentucky, which transformed whole mountainsides into black walnut, hickory nut, and chestnut forests, or the Amamutsan nation of Santa Cruz, what's now called Santa Cruz, California, which maintained these oak tree savannas that made it healthy for deer to live there and all kinds of species. All of these indigenous groups, where once they were destroyed through the process of colonization, the earth actually went into shock and these ecosystems started to fall apart. And so this is a way that human beings can actually become a keystone species once again, a way that human beings can actually be like the beavers. If you take a beaver out of the ecosystem, the dam goes away, the water goes away, the fish go away, the moose go away, everything goes away. And that's what we are meant to be as human beings. We're meant to be keystone species that act so well and are so forward thinking that if we were to leave, the earth would actually miss us. And so I don't want this coronavirus pandemic to fool us into thinking that human beings are not here for a reason. We are here for a reason. And as my friend Mendahi says, that reason is not to take over the earth. That reason is to take care of the earth. And listening to indigenous practices and indigenous sciences of land stewardship and food systems is how we're going to get out of this mess today, because these are not primitive societies. These are highly advanced, highly sophisticated civilizations that took care of this entire continent prior to colonization. So that's my little spiel on how human beings are a beautiful and integral part of creation, and creation needs us. So have a beautiful day, everyone. We're so grateful that you're here. I'm not sure if Seneca closes it all out or if I just closed it out, but it's been really wonderful being with all of you here today. And we apologize to those who are looking forward to the Facebook live stream. We will be posting this to Facebook, and we appreciate all the hard work that the entire Yucca team has put in to make this possible.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such a beautiful song and a beautiful worldview. That's something I think a lot of people need. Yeah, as you said, thank you all so much to our amazing, presenters, our mutualistas from throughout the state who are on the front lines organizing to build the resilience of our communities. Artists who are carrying the messages forward from our Mother Earth, our hearts, and our collective imagination, and political visionaries who are helping us take action right now and create the systemic change we need. So thank you all for joining us, for bearing with us through all this technical difficulties and the tricky online format. So we invite you all to head over to our sister event with 350.org by going to Facebook 350NM. We will also have a Yucca member who is speaking on that format as well. So thank you everybody for being here. Happy Earth Day, and let's work together to answer Mother Earth's calls for change. So thank you and good night.